Hey, this is Vince from the Center for Independence, and we're going to do a quick overview on how to operate the Yeti 500X. It has 500 watts of power, really nice unit, could be used with CPAPs, but always test first, which we're going to kind of go through real quick on there. And where we're going to start is on the buttons. The first thing you're going to want to do is know how to use the item. So I'm going to go from left to right. On the far left, there's a 12-volt output. So if you have anything that could plug into like a lighter assembly in a car, this will be able to power it on there. And then to turn on the item to heat up, like to turn on each port on there, you have to press the button. So there's a little 12-volt button near the left front face, near the top. And it's an oval button, and once you press that, that will illuminate. Once it illuminates, that means that port is hot and it's allowing to give a charge on there. So that's a 12-volt unit. As you go to the right, there's 3 buttons along the top edge front, right above the display. The first one is units. So when you click through units, right now it's showing the output is 0 watt amps or 0 amps output. When you click it, now it's switched over to the output for watts, which is 0. And then the watt hours of how long the item has been used. And the voltage, which is 11.9 volts. So those are your kind of units that you could switch through to go through and see how much power the item is using on there. To the right of the units button, in the center of the assembly, there's a light button, and that'll turn on and off the illumination on there. As you go further right, there's an info button. On the info button, it tells you your percentage. Go to the, so we already covered the light. Now we're going to go over to info. On info, you can click that, and it'll show you your percentage. And then also if you're charging the battery or using the battery, it'll show you your time till empty and time till full. To the right of that, along the top front of it, is your AC ports. On your AC ports, it's going to power up these ports. You could always test your items to see if there's too much of a draw. This thing will turn itself off if it feels like it has too much of a draw on it. So usually anything over 300 watts, that'll take that much juice, like a space heater, possibly a refrigerator or something like that, this will not power. And usually it'll suck them down pretty fast and take the charge out of them. So when you turn on the AC port, it starts causing an output. So it'll show a wattage output on there. Because whenever this port is hot, it's going to draw electricity because the inverter is changing the power over. So that inverter does take a little bit of electricity on it. So as you can see on the display screen, it shows output of 7 watts, even though nothing's plugged into it, right? And then now it's showing hours till empty. So right now it's kind of bouncing around to kind of get its thing on there. So if we leave this port on, this battery will be discharged in about, I'd say, 47 hours on there. So it does have like a slight draw, but there is a draw. And every time you have this port hot, it will cause a draw on the battery. So if you're trying to run this in line with items where you have the charger plugged into it and then it's giving out power at the same time through these AC ports, there will be a little bit of a draw on there. So this thing will always be continuously charging. So that will kind of affect your electricity bill when you're trying to charge it up too. So try and keep this port off as much as possible. So I just turned it off there. And if you look, the output went to 0, the hours disappeared. So underneath the display, there's a USB button, and then that's for your USB ports. So you have a 60 watt, I think the newer style USB on there, in and out. You have a 2.4 amp USB port out, and a 2.4 amp USB port out. Then they have an 18 watt quick on there too. So when you turn on this port, that means those things are ready to charge. Nothing will charge unless you turn on the port. So make sure to have your port on. All right. Now we're going to get into how to charge your Yeti 500. Yeti 500 does come with an adapter. This is your adapter. One plug. Ooh. One plug goes in the. Ooh, move that down there. These are the two plugs for it. One goes into the wall. One goes into the battery. So I'm gonna put this on the wall real quick. And on the far left of the battery, on the front of it, below the 12-volt ports, which is one big one, one small one, there's the input. The input also has a blue little ring around where it goes in. Also on the plug, it's got a blue ring, so blue to blue. So I'm going to put that in there. And now it's calculating how long it's going to take to charge, which takes a couple, like probably about a minute or so on there. Right now we had at 87% right when we started. So now this is going to end up going to try and charge to full. Right now it's showing about 2 hours till it's full, and it's charging at about 80 to 90 watts on there. So now let's plug something in that will cause a big draw, which is one of those little kettle pots. Just try and pull that up. This is the kettle we're going to be using on there, which causes a huge draw. So we're going to see if this battery could take the draw of the kettle and see what kind of time it takes on there on the battery, just to do like a little experiment on it. Let's go back down to the battery. And I do not recommend using one of these kettles with these batteries on there, because they will cause a big draw. So I plugged in the kettle, and let me unplug the charge because we're going to do the experiment without it charging. I'm going to turn it on, and I'm turning on the kettle. And if you notice, it just went to red. This kettle has too much of a draw, and this item will not charge it. It tripped its own safety, which is a great feature of it. So you know now you cannot use a little kettle, like a little water boiling kettle for your tea, with this unit, because it'll cause too much of a direct draw. So basically nothing's going to happen there. So let's turn it off, because that just tripped. And we turn off the kettle and unplug it. So that experiment showed the safety features of the 500. If you have a bigger battery, like a 3000, it should be able to run more power and power these items. So now I'm going to plug it back in on there, and if you notice, the output's still showing 7 watts because I have not turned off the AC on there, the AC plugs. So I'm going to turn those off, and then it's going to drop the output to 0. So let's try something that does work, which would be a cell phone. So we have a cell phone, and we have a plug. So plug that in the USB port, plug in your phone, and it's going to be charging up, but should be charging. Let me see. Flip the plug. Oh, it's not charging because the USB port's off. So now I turn the port on, and now it's charging. So it's showing. Let's not take off the plug, and we're going to see how much this cell phone will charge and how long it'll take. So I could run this cell phone for Geez, well, it's got a really low draw right now because it's pretty far charged. So it'll probably be like 97 hours. I can use my cell phone for 97 hours, which is great. So this is a good way to test what you're going to have on your battery or whatever you're plugging into, A, if it'll work, and if the time's going to work on there too for B. So plug it back in, and I think that covers it for the Yeti 500X. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out. We have seen success with these working with CPAP machines, but we also recommend to test the items on there. So no matter what you do, before you use this, make sure to plug in all the items you feel like you're going to need in case of an emergency, or when you're out and about, to see how this thing will charge up and if it'll be able to power your items for the amount of time you need. And thank you so much. The Center for Independence San Mateo can assist with signing up for PG&E Medical Baseline Program, where you can receive alerts on planned public safety power shutoffs, backup batteries, and possibly a discount on your electricity bill. We can also assist with preparing for emergencies and give local resources. Contact CID at www.cidsanmateo.org or give us a call at 650-645-1780 to learn more about our services and backup battery program. Thank you.